So this is our first episode or podcast. I don't know how they call it. I don't really know how they call it. I should have had us other people podcast of the Real Talk with Claudia Mostaghasi. Do you guys remember I used to have a show that was a radio show that was talk like that? Yeah. So we're copying like what everybody's doing now, and he's doing like podcasts and inviting people. But I wanted to have both of you. So I'm Claudia Mostaghasi, and I do mortgage loans, and I started back in 2007 doing mortgage loans, and I thought it was important to start this show to just start kind of like exploring the different aspects of when you go and buy a house. But first, I want to use the first, I'll say, 7 episodes or 6 episodes to introduce my team, so that we're a little bit different than all the mortgage companies in town. So there's just one loan officer instead of like them having like 5 or 10 or whatever. But we help about 30, 40 families per month. It's kind of like getting slow right now with the interest rates being higher, but we're going to talk about that and explain how it doesn't matter that the interest rates are higher. You should still buy a house. But I'm going to introduce Katherine. So Katherine Flores is, do you want to tell us what you do?
A loan processor for the Mostaghasi team. I've been processing for a couple years now, been different job titles, worked my way up to processing. Worked with Claudia almost 9 years.
No, 9 years. We actually went
so
back.
We must have had some kind of mind warp, but we thought it was 10, or I thought it was 10, and I'm like, yeah, it's gonna be 10.
Okay, we'll return the 10-year anniversary later because...
No, like honestly, I like literally, this is how we know, because I was like, what are you in? Actually, for spring, what's it, spring break?
I don't know. You were saying, what are you gonna do? And I'm like,
no, I said, what are you gonna do for
next
spring
year?
Break? Because I want to do.
Yeah, not.
Well, I wanna do something fun for her and Martin for the 10-year anniversary, and I asked her. I said, "What are you gonna do for spring break? When is a spring break?" I asked first, and then I know Martin is off on spring break, and then I said, "What are you guys gonna do for spring break?" And then she was like, "Well, we don't have plans," and I'm like, "Exactly. When is your 10-year anniversary?" And she was like, "Actually, it's mine." I'm like, "Okay, well then you can do whatever you want on spring break.
Go about your business."
I thought we were talking about work anniversary.
Yes.
Then why would her and Martin go somewhere together?
Because I'm sending her.
She wanted to do that.
Like, I want to
Why
do
don't
something
y'all
special.
two go?
I mean,
we're always together.
Yeah.
We even do photo shoot. One time we went to.
Yeah, we did.
So this is a cool story. One time we went to a site visit. Where was it? Grand Rapids, Michigan. And it was hot. It was cold. So we get there, and it's a weekend. It was a weekend. We were coming back on like Saturday or something. It was like Thursday, Friday, something like that.
Yeah.
So we went, we did our site visit and everything, and we went to drive. Like there was this like
It was called the color drive, or
the color drive,
color something.
So it's like basically like you drive, and then there's all these trees
and the trees, and then
but
you
they're
get
like
to stop
color,
at,
like orange,
like
and
little rivers and brooks, and like
we did a photo
covered
shoot.
like
we literally went a photo shoot.
We did.
No, we did a photo shoot,
and then we went to an apple orchard, and then we were on horses. Like
we did a wine tour. We got in the we got in a carriage.
It was a color tour.
It was a carriage.
That's what it was called. Yeah.
And then
we were like going, and we were cold. It was cold.
Yeah. And then we got back to the hotel, and I was like, okay, we should just take a nap, and then we're gonna party. Like we're gonna go drinking.
Gonna go out to go eat, and then we're gonna go drink
party.
Something.
And we're gonna party
because it's like it's the weekend. We're gonna do that.
We don't have kids. There's no husband. We're like, okay, we're gonna go and party it out. And then I was like, oh, let's just take a quick nap.
Yeah. So our party out was, let's just stay in the bed, and that was wonderful. And we're like, yes, this is good.
Like literally after 2 hours of being on a nap, I was like, do you really want to go out?
You're like,
And she was like, no. I was like, okay, me neither. And we just
So
like
it was good.
slept so well.
Yeah.
Okay,
Like,
well,
it was-
next trip I'll go with you all.
Yeah,
And
it's
then
like
we
super
had
crazy.
breakfast that came to the room.
breakfast in bed and everything.
cute.
Yeah.
It was romantic.
So she started actually, I like your story, how you started in the mortgage, because you actually started as a client.
Yeah.
And then it was a year later.
Mhm. So in 2013, my sister-in-law and brother-in-law referred us over to Claudia because we were shopping around for, home loan. And then that was in 2013. We met with Claudia. She's like, oh my gosh, I like your attitude. And I'm like, oh, okay, yeah. And then and she's like, no, for real. Like, you need to call me. I can, teach you the ropes. And I'm like, sure, yeah. And I'm like, really didn't think of it. And then she's like, no, I'm serious. Like, you need to. And I'm like, okay, call me when you're ready. And I'm like, I called her. And I'm like, okay, I'm ready. And she's like, okay, give me a couple months and we'll get it going.
Like more like a year.
Yeah. So it was in 2014, February. So she's like, come on aboard or whatever. And I said, okay, I'm going. I'm going to get started. So
She
I went
had
from the
been-
medical
you haven't-
field.
How long have you been in the medical field?
Out of high school, even in high school, I was working at Driscoll Children's Hospital as a volunteer. I mean, I've been in the medical field
what?
since
Forever.
a volunteer. So when you're in high school, you can go and volunteer hours to see what field you're interested in. So you work in
I didn't know
oncology,
that.
you work in, like, if you want to work in administration, then you do that. There's all sorts of, Driscoll's
Oh.
huge.
So that are they still
and then
doing
there's
that?
physical therapy.
Do you
Yeah.
know that they're
I
still,
don't know if they're still doing it, but
that?
I did it for like 3 years.
I
Huh.
just lied on my service hours, so I didn't volunteer.
But it was fun. I loved it. I did that. So, anyways, I worked there. Worked several South Texas Eye Consultants, Humble Physical Therapy, a lot of different.
Okay,
medical-
do I have to call them and charge
this
them
is
for
not an
like?
ad.
This is not an
Sorry, but
ad.
that's
I'm
where
gonna
I
have to call
So
and
that's where I worked.
charge.
So I was working at an eye doctor. Claudia, we met up with Claudia, and Claudia's like, "Come on over." And then it was a leap of faith. I can't believe I did that because I really don't not like that. And I'm like, okay, this girl sounds pretty legit, and she really knows what she's talking about. So yeah, okay, it's cool. And
I
so
really didn't know what I was talking about yet.
I thought you did, so that's good. So, anyways, and it was all cool when I started working. I started receptionist, making appointments, then slowly, taking information,
yeah.
marketing, and then worked my way up. And then we just got so busy, and then we started. I needed more help, and then you would get somebody, and I'm like, oh, good. And then we would get
It
more
didn't
busy,
work,
and then it
yeah.
kept going, and then that's how we assembled the team gradually.
So out of all these years, who's been your favorite coworker?
What do you mean, like what do you mean? Like all
Like
the people
besides
that-
Out
me.
of all of the years that you've been working with Claudia, who's been your favorite coworker?
I can't pick a favorite. I mean,
Okay,
I like
well, that was an
everybody.
easy question. That was
Yeah,
supposed to be me.
We
So,
work
okay.
side by side, but I mean, I can't. I don't like have favorites, but like,
like
Oh,
whenever
it's
people
like,
ask-
do you have a favorite kid?
And they
I
say
don't.
no. Yes, you
No.
do. We
Yeah,
all
you
know.
don't have a
We all
favorite
know the
kid?
truth.
no, I don't.
You don't
I
have
like
a
them
favorite
both
kid?
equally. You have a favorite kid?
Yeah, she has
No,
a favorite.
I
kid.
don't. I
It's
don't.
you can't. It's
So yeah, Catherine, it started almost 9 years ago. I was very proud of her because when I met her, I felt like she had a lot of potential, but it was like almost like the whole story of the the coal, and then you make it into a diamond. Like you have to like really dig and like make
Mhm.
it like
Mhm.
so that, because to me it was very important for her to see
Yeah.
her value,
Mhm.
like more than what I can see. And I've always said this. I mean, people can see it all you want, and they can believe on you, and they can tell you, oh yeah, you can do it, and all these stuff. But if you don't believe in yourself, then I mean, literally, it doesn't matter what other people think.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So, so I'm very happy that you are. So let me move on with Daniela. So Daniela, it's actually for a lot of people, I think everybody knows, but
I think
For-
people still act like they don't know.
like they don't know. But Daniela is my my sister, and she's like my baby sister. So there's a big gap. She's 20 and I'm 35 until we die.
I'll be 21 soon.
Yeah. No. It's 20 and 35 forever.
Okay, my bad.
So Daniela, I still remember the day that my mom showed up to the house and said that she was pregnant, and I was like, I literally threw a fit because I was like, I cannot believe you and Dad are still doing that. Like, what in the freaking world is happening here? And then I went in to I threw a tantrum because I was like, okay, it better be a freaking boy, because I'm the only girl. I'm Dad's favorite.
You
like,
still
this
are.
is
It's
not
okay.
gonna change.
It
Like,
didn't change.
Yeah,
You still
I
are.
was like, I cannot have another little girl around the house. So I was like, no. Well, every single time, this like back in the years, but not that
Like
long
2000,
ago, but
like the 2000s.
yeah. The sonogram wouldn't show if she was a girl or a boy. So I remember to like rush into the hospital when my mom delivered her to find out. My dad with the biggest smile saying, "It's a girl." I was like, holy crap. Like, anyway, fast forward, I actually did like her. And we, you went to school. So you were not.
Yeah. So I went to Texas A&M College Station. I graduated back in 2017, and then I didn't really know what I was gonna do. I went to school for sociology because I thought it was really cool, and I wanted to maybe work in a nonprofit, do some sort of, I don't know, something. I didn't really have a path. I just had a lot of fun in college, to be honest. I still miss it, but then
Because
one
of the
night,
fun?
I mean, yeah, it was a lot of fun. Any Aggie will tell you it was a lot of fun. And yes, we are a cult. Yes,
Oh no,
we're okay with
it is
it.
a cult.
It's totally
It is
fine.
a cult.
You're good with it.
Yeah, I'm okay with it. It's okay.
I remember she was like truly, she was literally a Longhorn. Like, I mean, she wanted to go to UT like 100%. Like, she wanted to go to UT. She wanted to go to UT, and then one time she went on one freaking tour to Texas A&M, and all of a sudden, like, oh, I'm an Aggie. I'm like, what in the freaking
they brainwash
world?
you. They really
Oh,
do.
wow.
They brainwash you.
So I was just like, I
was happy
cannot
with it.
freaking believe this crap. So anyway, so she went over there. She came back. She was gonna graduate, and we were literally having a beer in my backyard, and we're just like talking. And I was like, "What are you gonna do?" And she was like,
I work
don't
at a
know."
nonprofit.
Yeah, she wanted to work at a nonprofit, and I said, "Well, how about you come and I'll teach you the business, and maybe one day we'll open our nonprofit." And she was like, okay. I think it was hard, and we were talking to, I don't remember who we were talking to yesterday, but we were talking about that because they asked us, like, is it hard to work together?
Yes, work with family.
Yeah.
Not really
Like
in
that
our
they say,
sense.
like, they say not to work together with family, and
I think y'all handle it pretty well. I mean, I haven't been able to have to pull y'all apart before.
or like,
I mean,
well, we've
it's-
been close. We've been there. I think what helps a lot with Daniela and me is that I'm way older than her, so there's already a sense of respect in that matter.
Well, that
like,
and
I mean,
professionalism. I mean, you're at work too.
yeah.
You know.
So, well, at work,
it's
we're like,
work.
it's work.
Yeah.
I mean, she's a president, I'm a loan officer.
Yeah.
Like, we don't look at each other as sisters. And I mean,
Yeah.
we had that situation, where, you were asked like, oh, well, I'm sure that you're used to your sister. And, and your answer was like perfect. Like, no, she's not my sister at work. Like,
yeah. I mean, y'all really are not. Other than just like we're always picking on each other, but
Yeah.
that's just
People
us.
think
That's
that
just work stuff. Everybody
Right.
does-
People think that I probably have it easier than everyone else here, but it's quite opposite.
I think you have it hard. I mean,
have
I
it.
think the expectations for I think that
Yeah.
everybody's expectations with me, like, I have higher expectations for everybody, period. But you especially, like, I do expect for you to step up, like,
Yeah.
even more than normally, just, because, I mean, you should do better or try to do better. Not because of me, but just, for yourself. I mean, it's the same
On them
expectation with,
because
like, the
family
kids.
dinners get awkward.
Oh yeah,
don't
like
do
we would not do.
I don't get
There
dinner.
would not be
I
Christmas
don't
or
get
anything.
seconds.
Yeah.
Like,
So
no soup for you this time.
yeah, not soup for you. So let's talk a little bit about. Okay, so you both start in the business. Tell me a story, or tell me one thing that you kind of like remember, like at the beginning when you started working, like that you thought, okay, I truly love this. Like this is like really something that I truly like.
So I have lots of those stories, but we don't want to cry. It's not going to be a sad
No, it's not the
story.
first time. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's lots of stories. I mean, the main thing is that keeps me going every day is the family that's getting to go home and be like, we did it. Like, oh my God, all our hard work. It chokes me up because that's like everybody's dream. And you're helping them get there and you're seeing all that joy and everything. That's what really gets me going every day. It's tough. I mean, it's stressful. You look it up. Loan processing, loan mortgages are very, very high stress job. But that to me every day, and I mean, we go to closings, we take closing gifts, and to see the families with their faces and they're like, thank you so much. I mean, you can pay me $1 million. Yeah, great. You can pay me in a smile. It's like 10 times that, like, thank you so much.
Don't tell that, because Daniela,
No,
I'll take
no,
the $1 million.
yes, I just said yes. I mean, of course,
Of
everybody
course,
needs to
yeah.
get paid. But I'm just saying the added double whammy is like, that's the reason, the real reason, to see the family and they're like, thank you. And you see, I mean, they're the ones doing all the work. You're just putting their paperwork together, but sometimes it gets a little bit hairy on some things and they're like, wow, you really helped as much. I'm just like, I'm just trying to help and get you guys going. But that's my thing.
So you say like the client. Was there any like a specific like point at the beginning? Like I can tell you, like, for example, to me, I always tell this story, but like the reason why I actually decided to go into the mortgage, like full mortgage, because I've been in banking since 2000. But it was this one girl, and I still have her on my Facebook actually till this day. And it was 2007, and she was single. She lived with her parents. She wanted to buy a nicer, bigger house for the parents. She worked at Sam Kane, and she was making like $10.50 an hour. And it was literally like perfect credit. She had that down payment. I mean, she had everything. And at the time where I was working, like literally was one of those like last minute, like, nope, you're not gonna get the loan. And I remember before calling her, I was like literally crying myself because I didn't know how to tell her it's not going to happen.
Because of course you're the one that has to tell her.
Well, yeah, I mean, you have to deliver the message. And I was like, but in that, like where I was working, we didn't really have control over anything. Like it was like a center call. And I mean, I don't want to say names or anything, but it's just like, kind of like the big banks, the big corporations that, it's literally you call a 1-800 number, you don't know who you're going to get. There's no reasoning, or they're not going to tell you why or nothing. So when that happened, I was like, okay, I have to change this because I can't. It was like literally almost like it was affecting me personally, and I wasn't the one that
like you're
like
telling me no, like
yeah, like
yes,
right.
Yes,
So that's when I decided.
You
so
take ownership of that,
right.
And you're like, you're telling me
file.
This is not gonna work. No.
So was there any specific scenario? By the way, this girl, when I moved companies, or like when actually I went into just mortgage loans, she came back and she was my first loan ever that I closed. It was her loan. So do you remember? Can you recall like
Wasn't she the
one?
one that came like last year?
Yeah, she
A
came
couple
back.
months ago,
Oh yeah,
she,
no,
like,
we
went to go say
refinanced it
hi.
afterwards, and then she came back just like, oh my god, I looked for you.
Those are
da-da-da-da."
like
Yeah,
that's
yeah. So do you remember one that you would think like, oh, like
um there was a family, the parents, and there was a daughter with them, but the parents were older. They rented for like 20 years, 25 years, and they're like, there's no way we can own a home. Like, I don't know how they had it in their head, like, no, that's something that we can't do. Like, we're never gonna do that. And I think the daughter kind of urged them, like, you're
because
paying,
that's the one that they
rent,
didn't.
and then they came and met with you, and you're like, look, you've been living here for this long, you could have bought that, like,
Own already the
owned it.
house.
And they're like, no, and they're like, what? Well, we helped them with their credit, things like that, and it took a little bit of time, and then they and I was doing the paperwork. They met with Claudia, and Claudia's like, okay, this looks good, we're gonna get you pre-approved, and go ahead and find go ahead
home.
shopping and find a home. And they were like so excited. I mean, you could see them there. They were kind of real composed and stuff inside, and they're like, okay, thank you. And then I was scanning their documents and getting stuff, and then somebody left something, and I had to run outside. I'm like, you left this or whatever, and they were outside like crying and jumping, and I'm like, oh my gosh. So
Like Catherine came back
and
in
I'm like,
crying.
oh my god, we helped them, like, yes, and oh my god. So it's just those stories. I mean, there's so many,
And she's about to start crying.
and
Right?
I cry
Why?
every time. I'm like emotionally attached to like these files, because you work so hard and you see them
Together, yeah.
from the start. Taking an application, the first phone call, and they're like, this is what I want to do. And they're like, I don't know if I can do it. And we're the ones like, yeah, what do you want to do? You guys gear them up and get it going. And
to do.
you see them through the
Yeah.
whole process, and they're like, I never knew that I could do something like that. And they get all excited.
What about you?
I had I don't think the girl actually found a house just because of what the market ended up doing. I think she's still looking for it, but it was before we moved to this building now. There was a young girl that went. She was probably in her mid-20s. She took her daughter, her daughter probably was around like 5th, 6th grade, and then her daughter's cousin. She told me the whole story about why her daughter's cousin was, or her niece, I guess, was living with them, and just, everything. And, they qualified. She was really, really happy. She started crying right then and there, and she just couldn't believe it. And I think just that, being able to like help them, and just people don't realize that it's not that hard, or they have this stigma of thinking like, I need so much money, like it's impossible, like
I feel
don't
like
have the
it's
money, and
It's unattainable. It's
It's-
something that's
yeah.
not for me,
I feel like it's just about like that, the whole education portion of it, because I mean they don't have a concept of like one. I mean it has always been said that you need 20% down payment. People don't know that, well, there's down payment assistance programs out there where you don't need a down payment, and then you need all this money for closing, and then the payment is going to be crazy. And and again, that's how I started the segment with interest rates are higher. But, when I started, interest rates were 8%. People were still buying houses. So yesterday I had this couple that I was talking to, and literally they're sitting down in front of me, and they have Zachary. What was the name? Zachary, right? Like he was such a cute baby. And I asked, I said, well, okay, so first time home buyers? They're like, yeah. I said, okay, so are you renting right now? And they were like, yes, we're renting. And I said, how much are you paying of rent? How much do you think they were paying of rent?
like 1,700-1,800
$2,080 a month.
God.
$2,080
Yeah,
a month. That's
rent
like
is
literally a
absurd.
$225,000 house. Yeah. And
And
they
people
were
think,
like,
what?
oh my God. And I said, look, you might, because the guy was like, well, I want to pay like $1,300. And I said, okay, well, $1,300 is really right now is unrealistic. Like if you go and try to get a $1,300 payment a month, you're going to literally buy a $130,000 house, which odds are probably you're not going to find something
right now.
right away. So I kind of like explained them, and I said, but if you're already paying $2,000 right now, and say you don't actually buy a house, and I tell you, hey, we're gonna buy a $225,000 house, and maybe have a payment of $1,800, that's gonna make you're still gonna be at under what you're paying of rent right now, but you can find a $200,000 house. When rates come down, we'll refinance, and then your payment might be $1,500. And they were like, yeah. I mean, I think they went yesterday with the realtor and already saw like 5 houses or whatever. Yeah. So, I mean, it's like, if you explain them or they ask the questions. Now, I think another thing that clients get worried about is to be told no. Yes. Because a lot of loan officers, they just tell you, oh, no, or they ghost you. Like they literally
ghost them. They're like, oh, well,
it's
been a month. I don't know. I don't know where my application is.
Like they haven't called me back. They never told me yes or no or anything. Then you pull credit. Well, credit wasn't where they were supposed to be. And then like literally people are just like, oh, like, well, I mean, do I not qualify or do I qualify? Like, like what the heck? So that's, what we see. But I know we have a lot of stories. Of like good stories. Yeah, I mean, we have good stories. We have good stories. We have fun stories.
We have bad stories. We have ugly stories.
Now I have another question. Before we have to leave, I don't even know. We weren't keeping time or anything, but how about tell me one thing that that let's say you remember maybe making a mistake or something that not really affected it, because we really haven't had any mistakes that will stop us from closing a transaction.
That's something that you overlook.
Yeah. Like what is one thing that you would say, oh my God, you guys have to be careful on this? Or
you need to know whether or not you're married. That is a huge one. People do not know whether they're married or not.
Apparently, there's different levels of
marriage.
Yes, there's. We do taxes together. Okay, you're married. We didn't go to the church, but we lived together for 15 years or 20 years. You're married. We just went to the church, but we're no longer living together. You're married. Like you need to get an actual divorce. I mean, there's a lot of stuff, and
it doesn't count if you actually went to the courthouse and you did get married, but now you told us you're not married. It does not. You're still married.
Or I mean, there's there's lots of different things that people are not in the country anymore. People are.
Oh, we had that one.
And then, no, but you're still married.
And they were like, but I haven't seen the guy for like 30 years. I'm like, but you're still married. Like it does not annul the marriage. So, okay. So let's do a little explanation about that. So in the state of Texas, it's a community property state. So it actually states, it's crazy though. Like I get mad with my husband all the time because he like jokingly with like friends and everybody, he'll say, instead of saying the girlfriend, she'll say, oh, well, ask the wife. And I'm like, no, dude, like you do understand that if you introduce somebody as the
you're
wife.
Married. Like literally. You're
married. Yes. And that's Texas. So in Texas, which is not in every single state, because there are some states that there's no community property. Like there's other states that it doesn't matter. But in Texas, if you introduce somebody as your wife, you're married. Yeah. And you have to state that you are married. It's very important.
If you didn't have a party, we love parties.
We can
throw you a party.
Oh, we do. We did that.
You are married.
Let's do it.
Oh, that was actually, I have a story, and I know if they're looking at the podcast, they're gonna know who I'm talking about. But they were actually building a house. VA loans, you can only apply with somebody else if you're married. Like that one, you have to be married.
Yeah.
And they were already engaged and everything. And I was like, well, we're doing the party early. Like we have to get you guys married faster. And that was a fun story.
That was fun.
But
And
yeah.
Dan and Dawn, it was in compliance. We didn't do anything. We didn't force them to get
Oh,
married.
we did
It
not
was
for
already-
that. Yeah,
it
they
was
were gonna
already-
get
it was already in
married. Yeah.
play.
It's okay.
You just nudged it like a little bit faster.
On the other hand, if you want to get divorced, we got you too.
Oh yeah, we have all the tools for that too. We know very good lawyers. We can walk you through the process as well. But okay, so married, like very important to show why, because we have to count the debt of your spouse if you are indeed married. For a lot of stuff. So, and that can affect the loan. And then if it's last minute because you said no, here's the funny part. I think like sometimes people think that we're not gonna find out. We're like private investigators.
Oh.
Like, I mean, we find out everything. Like sometimes, if you remember the one that we had that the girl didn't know that he had child support.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, I feel like that's happened more than once.
Yeah, no, it
definitely
had,
happened
yeah.
more than once.
And they're just like in the meeting going,
oh my
What?
god.
so quiet. And I'm like, oh. Claudia's they're talking and I'm like, did not know. Jeez, poor. I mean, how does that happen? I mean,
I
guess
remember
financiers are separate and
One
this can
time,
happen like that. But, oh my
I was
gosh,
going
how
through
do you
a-
not disclose.
I was going through a credit report with a couple, and I was like, "Oh, so these are the liabilities you'll have: Victoria's Secret credit card." And the guy just turned around and was like, "You have what?"
Yes.
And I said, "Oh, I'm so sorry. They're calling me. I'll be right back."
Oh, like you need to.
Because
That's like
they
the
get-
safest thing to do is to step away. I mean, I feel bad sometimes. There's like some husbands that they like work really hard, and you see all the overtime and everything, and the wives are just like. They are like spending the money and the guy doesn't know. Like, I mean, he doesn't know that they have all these debt. I had gotten calls from before the appointment to tell me, can you just please don't say that we have all these debt in front of my husband? And I'm like, I think that that's not how it works.
No.
But you know,
So what else? What do
That
you
is
think?
Super cringe.
what is the
Like-
other thing that you have? Like, I guess, because my question was like, not a mistake, but like something that you overlook and then it causes a problem that you have to fix. Like that one with the marriage, we just had that happen. And thankfully, the wife didn't have any debt and it didn't affect the loan
There
at
was
all.
Lots of times, I mean, not lots of times, but I would say like 2 or 3 times where we're like, okay, so we're going to do a verification of employment and we're going to call your employer to verify. And they're like, wait, who are you going to call? And I'm like, why do you have to verify? I'm like, because we just don't go off of your paper pay stub that you just brought that could have been from anywhere. And we have to do a verification of employment. We get all of this. And to back up the documentation you provide us. Oh, so I'm not working there anymore. And I'm like, okay, so where are you working? Well, I'm not employed right now. I'm like, okay. So things like people like don't think that we're going to check the paperwork. I guess
Verify, yeah.
verify. Even tax returns. Somebody's brought in tax returns that were made up apparently, and we're trying to get transcripts and did not match.
So at the end of the day, like
Just
we are going
crazy
to
things.
verify all these stuff.
Crazy
Like whether
things.
you say you have money in the bank, we're gonna ask for bank statements. If you say you're working somewhere, we verify up to the day that we close on the loan.
So you
Why?
have to stay
Because,
employed.
Like, I just feel like there has been so much fraud on the mortgage department, like on the mortgage world, that that they have to like really like cross all the T's and look at everything just to make sure that it's not bad.
So I think with the whole where the market is going and all of the crazy types of loans that we're going to be getting back, bank statement only loans and all of that, why don't you tell us about the first time you bought a home?
Oh,
what happened to
that
you?
was like so bad. So the first time I bought a house, I like literally it was Andrea. Andrea was like, she wasn't turned a year old, and it was just her and me. And we came to San Antonio, and Las Tias and la abuelita, and everybody's like, oh, mija, you can stay here on this little room. And I was like, hell no. I'm like, I need to put my daughter in her own house. Da, da, da. So I wasn't on the mortgage industry back then. And I had, I was salary. I mean, I was making like, I don't know, like $28,000 a year. So I basically went online and applied. So I actually had, I worked for a bank, and I remember, I don't know why I didn't apply through the bank. Like I was just like, so I applied online. So I went and applied online, and it was this guy. He was like, well, I never actually met him, but it was like an older, like, like a John Smith, like, like a, I don't want to
like the first catfish, probably.
yeah, like, I mean, it was just like, it was just like, a guy,
Yeah.
he sounded super nice on the phone. And then I told him, like, look, like, I can only afford like maybe $700-800 a month with everything included. Like, I can't pay more than that. And they was like, oh, no problem. I got you, blah, blah, blah. And he was like, I qualify you for, he qualified for like 150,000. And then I was like, well, how much I'm going to need of down payment? Oh, no, you don't need a down payment. We have this program, and, I got you. And I was like,
red flags.
okay.
Everywhere.
But it was everything that I wanted to hear. So I was like, okay, perfect. Like, and I said, but there was some stuff that I kind of like knew that I didn't want. So I was like, I want like a principal and interest payment. Like, I want a 30-year fix. Like, oh, yeah. I got you. And I was like, okay, so I got me with a realtor, started looking for a house, found the house. It was like $123,000 house. It was a little house, very cute, big backyard. I remember the one thing that told me on the house is it had a big tree on the front, super big tree, and it had a big backyard, like front yard. Mm-hmm. So I was like, this is perfect. I could totally see Andrea there. We had 3 bedrooms. So I was like, this is the house. So I put the offer, I got the offer accepted. He started doing the loan, right? And I mean, of course, I'm getting all these paperwork, and like a good customer, I'm just signing all the paperwork, right? And so it's the day of the closing. And now, if you remember, I said I didn't want an interest-only loan. I wanted principal and interest. He said, oh, there's no down payment. Literally probably brought like $500 to closing. I don't know how that happened. The seller paid for some of it. I go to closing, and I'm like, literally, the girl is going through the payment, and she goes, so you have 2 loans. And I was like, well, it's supposed to just be one. And she's like, no, it's an 80-20. So back then they did a first and a second. So the 80% was an interest only loan. So my payment was like $400 or something like. I mean, it was very cheap, but it was interest only, which means I was never gonna pay off the house. Like, I mean, it literally, I was just paying interest. It was a 30-year note, but it was a balloon payment at like 15, and then the rate was variable after like the first 5 years. So I was like, okay, well, what about the second one? And she's like, no, the second one is actually, so that one was a 20%. So it was only like, like $30,000 or something. That one it was principal and interest. The interest rate was like 12%.
Oh my God.
And the payment, and 7 or like 6.875. Yeah. And it was 12%. And it was like $150 a month, which means my payment combined was less than $700. But it was,
which was great, but you were going to be paying
not taxes and insurance. So I had to pay tax and insurance separate too. Well, the sad part about this is that I'm sitting in the closing table. The realtor has the keys to the house where I want my daughter to live in. I kept calling the guy. He never answered the phone. So what do you do? I mean, like, you just freaking sign, suck it up, and then You know,
Figure
I
it
was
out
like,
later
I'll
on.
figure out later on what I'm going to do. I mean, right now I just bought a house, and obviously, you know, back then there was no Facebook, there was no,
Way
you know,
to find
social
him.
media or anything. But no, I mean, that I didn't have to like brag about. But of course, you tell your family, oh, I bought a house, with a big smile, without like knowing on the back of your head is like, holy
And I
crap,
got
like
royally
and there's
screwed.
like I literally gave her the Vaseline. Like, I mean, I was just like, they don't like, he literally, like, it was just, it was not okay. Like, it
But
was like really bad. But
Moral of the story: things get better.
well, I mean, you always
No.
refinance. I actually sold a house later on, blah blah blah, and all that. Then you learn to read the documentation, or at least to actually talk to somebody. I mean, to me, it's better to like talk to
Yeah,
somebody
in
face to
person.
face. I feel like you get more of the vibe of, like, is she for real? Like, I mean, or is she like just like try? Like, I think on the phone, it's very easy to just
You can
say
bullshit a
whatever. I mean,
person.
oh, you can like literally say whatever. But yeah, that was my first house purchase. I mean, well, and then I met you. That was another fun story because Martin, I still make fun of him because he wanted to go with like the builder
Preferred
blender,
lender.
and he was gonna get a better rate and da da da. And I remember calling him afterwards, and Martin never actually told me directly, like, nope, they gave me a higher rate. I'm like, I told you, right?
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
still love
Yeah.
you, Morty.
But no, it was funny because he never actually, like, I told him, I said, look, dude, I mean, there's no, it's like in this business, there's like no lunch for free.
No, no,
Wow.
yeah.
I mean, they're gonna take out the money from somewhere. I mean, there's no free stuff anymore. But anyhow, so we talked about that. So what will be one, so that we can wrap it up? What will be one advice, and it cannot be the same, that you will give a person that is gonna want to start the process of buying a home?
Call HomeSource
Save
Mortgage.
money. Call HomeSource Mortgage.
You stole mine.
No,
Right
that
out
was
from under
yours.
me.
Save money is mine. Save. Because it's worth it. Investment of your house. I mean, it's a big. That's everything. It's a big investment, and that's something that you never lose money. I mean, it always gets equity and things like that. It's better. It's good.
And when she's saying save money, I mean, there's ways that we can help you to bring the least amount of money to
Mhm.
closing, without making it two loans or whatever. You know, nothing scary. But what I'm talking about is like down payment assistance, like maybe the seller giving concessions, or, you know, I mean, there's a lot of ways that we can help you bring as less money as you can. But just make sure that you do save money. It is not true when people advertise
You don't
you
need any
need
money.
zero money to buy a house. That's a lie. I mean, you do need money to buy a house, and a lender is not going to give you money if you have zero on your bank account. I guarantee you that. And you don't want to go and buy a house
No
with zero
money.
money on your, like, no.
It's like, how are you're gonna be in the house?
no
Nothing.
money. Yeah.
But I got a house.
Daniela.
Call us.
Yeah.
Not only are we cute, but we're
Great
smart.
tip. Pro
So
tip.
361-334-8370. Just don't ask for me. Ask for Christine or Lucy.
Save it in your contact
Yeah.
and share it. I mean, we'll help friends, family get them into their dream home.
Well, thank you so much for sticking with us. We're going to do this next week again. We will have two more of our team members, and we'll have another chat with them. But thank you guys for doing
Thank
this on
you
our
for
first
having us.
episode
Yep.
of The Real Talk with Claudia Mostaghasi.